Well, thank you all for being here today. We're talking about fast, targeted advertising, scale, all the fun buzzwords, of course, over the next 2 sessions, so I hope you'll stick around. Today, we're joined by this wonderful panel, mixing a little bit of across the fast ecosystem.
Okay, I'll start. Hey, great to be here. Sebastian Braun. I'm the CEO of 24i. We run a video platform focused on helping our customers increase revenue per viewer. That could be subscription, that could be advertising based, and I'm looking forward to using all those buzzwords that you're talking about.
I'm Evan Bregman. I lead streaming and direct-to-consumer for Tastemade. Tastemade is a leading lifestyle programmer with channels focused on food, travel, home and design. We also have a recipe membership called Tastemade Cooking.
I'm Aaliyah Daniels. I'm Chief Operating Officer and co-founder at Revry. We're LGBTQ streaming network. I'm also president of Prism Riot, which is our multicultural ad exchange.
I'm Ingrid Mariotti. I'm VP of Business Development for the Americas. We are the technology behind FAST, the distribution of content and advertising at Wurl.
I'm Carl Meyer. I'm the CRO of Fuse Media. I've been on the job for 6 months. We are a multicultural or growth market platform of channels.
You know, we're at an interesting time for FAST where there's a lot of content. There's a few platforms, and we're probably going to see a lot of consolidation in the platform space. There are a lot of different ways to approach advertising. And when I watch Pluto TV at home watching Tastemade, the fill rates aren't great. So kind of set the stage right now, you know, and talk about where we're at in that growth story of FAST. You know, last year it was, we're growing. And now there's lots of content, but are people watching it, and are we optimizing it the right way?
One of the more important dynamics that has kind of sorted itself out in the past 12 months is a lot of the distributors had pretty much parity in terms of viewership and number of viewers for quite a long time, and they were kind of battling it out over time. At this point now, there's quite a bit of separation between the various different distributors, and that has led to sort of an era of more maturity, I think, in the ecosystem. Roku captures the most, Tubi, Pluto, Samsung, and then there's kind of everyone else, all in a bundle for that last kind of 10%. The last I checked. You know, the net result of that, obviously, supply follows that for sure. But I think the businesses that are the most mature, the distribution businesses that are most mature in this space and that are the largest in this space are the ones who are also getting the most creative with how to solve that monetization issue. They are working more closely with programmers like us to find new ways to monetize not only our channels, but other channels. And then they're packaging the inventory differently by doing things that, frankly, everything's that's old is new again. Some of us in the room probably remember the number of times that YouTube had to go out and fund premium content in order to create a premium package to offer to advertisers that could help inflate at least some of the CPMs on the platform. And that's what we're seeing right now with a lot of the originals that some of these platforms are coming out with. So it is certainly a new phase, but I am encouraged by the amount of innovation and exploration that's happening by the different distributors. Tastemade has always approached our distribution with inventory shares. So we have a monetization engine that powers our channels. We exclusively represent a few other programmers as well in this space. And we found it to be a pretty collaborative relationship, especially over the last 12 months with the distributors as we try to solve it.
And then Ingrid, from the Wurl perspective, I saw you were nodding along.
As a technology partner to content companies and streamers, we're helping them find these solutions. So we need to make sure that we are helping them optimize their content, their inventory to extract the most value out of it and attract that demand. And there's a lot of great ways we're working with partners to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I could jump in. So only recently, Heart Media turned the channel over, LOL, to us, that is Fuse, to run, operate, program it, and of course, monetize it. I think that's one clear indication that we're good at what we do. We've been doing this a while with linear, and then as FAST came along, we were there at the right time, and we've had great success. I think the obvious is it's premium, exclusive. It's also serving a niche audience that few do and few do well. There are the larger other competitors to us in multicultural, but we serve a premium audience, certainly. But our relevancy in the way that we curate and serve that content is unique to us. And it's premium because I see the CPMs, I know they're high, and while the rest of the world is dropping like a stone. So
across these answers, scale has been said, but maybe wasn't actually said explicitly. We are now seeing a lot of content partnerships. We're starting to see a lot of companies merging in terms of that to create scale. At what point does there need to be more scale on the fast side for this to work from an advertising perspective?
Let me make an analogy for a second, okay? With a little bit of audience involvement, by show of hands, do we have any Keanu Reeves fans in here? Oh yeah, we got a few, right? Remember the movie Ballerina? It is not about making more moves. It's about precisely executing each move, and sort of, I think that's the analogy that we're seeing with Fast too. We don't need more channels. You hinted to the fact that there's quite a lot of empty inventory. We need more precision about describing the viewer, understanding the viewer, and that's kind of what we do for our customers. We feed them with data about the user, more context, and it's not necessarily demographic data or behavioral data. It's about intent. It's about wrapping that type of perspective around the user, and then dynamically being able to feed that back into an ad system and make the right call for the ad to get that inventory filled. I love watching the Champions League, okay, on Paramount Plus this year. I think next year it's going somewhere else. But whatever. Something happens, halftime comes on, and you get, oh, we're in an ad break, we'll be right back. But I get a static screen. I don't mind the ad, even if the ad is a great piece of content. Why not fill that? What is missing? And so that's, I think, where we're at right now, right? We have to scale. We don't need more channels. Viewership is good. We need to understand the precision about the viewer, precisely understand the viewer, to go fill that inventory and target them better.
So you've basically teed up the next question, which is what data is actually missing today, and what is keeping us from getting there? Is it the walled gardens? Is it just viewers aren't subscribing, aren't logging in? What's giving us those problems?
I mean, I would, from our perspective, I think one, soft plug, we work with 24i, and the data that Sebastian's talking about has been incredibly vital with the work that we're doing. I mean, we are a smaller channel. We've been around for a really long time, but we really focus on our audience explicitly. And so for us, it's a combination of, one, our originals, because you're not going to get our originals anywhere else, right? And two, optimizing the experience to get as many of our audience into our fast channel experience. So for us, for example, our biggest hit is King of Drag. It is a drag king competition show. Therefore, there's excitement to figure out what's happening this week, who's getting kicked off, et cetera, et cetera. Before we put it out anywhere else, it lives on fast. We have eventized old school the way that we would have that experience of, oh, I want to watch this show. It's going to happen at this time specifically. And by doing that, we've encouraged our audience to come in for that specific moment on fast, in particular, before they go watch it anywhere else, which honestly is us via AVOD. But we're eventizing the fast experience to get our audience there, which then helps to support our higher CPMs that we're able to work with. And it's with the data that we're able to get through our partnership with 24i that's helping us to continue to optimize that experience for our audience and as well as for our advertisers.
But the truth is that all of these decision makers that we work with are beholden to boardrooms, C-suite, and they need answers, they need outcomes. The beauty with all this is start with targeting, then you get an optimization and outcomes, and then this fear of the soft market, maybe this is the transition of where you're going, goes away. That scatter budgets really are irrelevant because you've got an ongoing relationship with an advertiser that continues just to keep spending and spending. And I do believe right now the lack of scatter budgets in advertising is just a direct result of these large walled gardens or programmers, publishers that have this unique relationship from a data perspective with a one-to-one partner.
I would add, Aaliyah, you touched upon this, is also audience intent, where they are, their mindset. That's becoming more important and more valuable to our partners as well, is not only finding the right audiences, but at the right moment is increasingly interesting and important. And we're finding through studies and data that it does matter, the mindset. And we do have the data and ability with AI to scan at a scene level and know what's right before the ad to match the right ad to the right scene and create a more positive experience overall, because that can lead to better brand perception, which can affect the brand and the content. I'm sure it's been talked about a lot this week, but the hydration breaks is a great example of that. any Telemundo execs out there, props, they've figured out how to do that gracefully by not putting full ads during moments of key engagement. Instead, they're putting L bars. So that's another place where we're really looking in the right ad units for the right moment. So that moment is becoming increasingly important.
And you're kind of getting at the idea of emotional targeting and how we're moving past just targeting a demographic, and now it's the emotion of the scene that context is helping inform the ads. Where is that going to lead us to with Fast in particular?
Better experiences, right? More engaged viewers, better brand recognition, people liking the experience. I've read these articles about people being irate at the fact that these ad units are cutting in during peak moments versus others that are saying that they're now watching Andres Cantor talk about the World Cup on Telemundo and they're learning Spanish and they love it. So it's creating positive viewership experiences.
Now, Evan, walk me through at Tastemade how you all think about Fast versus the other platforms that you're on, because you also put a lot on YouTube and a lot of the things that are competing with Fast for attention.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call them competitive, frankly. Like I think as consumers, people don't really comparison shop between Pluto and the Roku channel, let alone between YouTube and Samsung TV Plus. Like realistically, like these are all additive, right? Like our media diets are broad and diverse at this point. And as a programmer in 2026, the fragmentation of attention and the fragmentation of media is a reality that everyone has to contend with. And I don't care if you are NBC or Tastemade. You have to be everywhere with things that are purpose-built for those individual platforms. Now, the other thing you have to do is keep up with those platforms. You mentioned YouTube specifically, and it is no news to anybody today that YouTube is television. Tastemade, we use YouTube in the same way that we think of our presence on the Roku channel. This is a place where we can put on-demand and linear content that is 100% of the time going to be served on television screens. And if you have not tried this yet, I've worked on YouTube for as long as YouTube has been around. Very rarely have I had an idea of something that might work in a particular way on YouTube, and it worked exactly that way. Try uploading a half-hour episode of anything to YouTube, and you'll see that 60% or more of your viewership comes from televisions. It just knows. That's just the way that this is. And so, by that token, we did start by mentioning the Emmy-winning show Struggle Meals, which just came back with new
I had noticed the full episodes were on YouTube.
Right, and yes, that's absolutely correct. For the first time, those full-length episodes are premiering on YouTube, coming to our Fast channel as well. From an ad sales perspective, in many ways, the Fast ecosystem is the gift and the curse, right? Is I have an inventory share from many of my platforms. I do not get that from YouTube. Very, very few do. And so at the end of the day, like the monetization that we can get by including a Fast window as part of a broad content strategy, we don't think that those two platforms are mutually exclusive in terms of audience. In fact, they could be additive in terms of audience. And it allows us to then say, yeah, we can post a half-hour episode of an Emmy-winning series on YouTube, knowing that we are going to get a fine return on that investment and also probably have more levers to grow the overall audience for that show and for our channels.
Yeah, I would also like to, join in on that, because that's something that we really focused on doing and made a concerted effort of treating YouTube as a proper channel and not just this place where you kind of throw things up. And so having the windowing with YouTube being a part of that, but also the beauty of YouTube is, yes, I can watch a full episode, but I also can engage with it like social and use the shorts to drive traffic, to get folks on YouTube, to get more aware of the show, but also to then drive them to watch the channel. So YouTube has this really fun, I like to say fun, but that's one way to put it, experience.
Vibes, is that the word this year?
Yeah, we'll do it. That works. Of being both social and treating it properly as a channel as well. And doing that has been really interesting on our side. We currently have a comedy show that's out now. Every episode's got stand-up comedians as part of it, and YouTube has a completely different strategy as compared to all of our other platforms, because we can have the entire episode up, but then we can split it up by joke, and then we can split it up by segment. And so that one piece of content, which we all know this happens on social a lot, but I think YouTube, because it's so unique that I can have the entire experience and I know folks are going to watch on television, really allows for that entire experience to be much more broad.
So let's drop a bomb on the room. What's the most overhyped thing about Fast today?
Program guides.
But I enjoy the scroll, Carl.
Yeah, the scroll. It's all
He
about
wants
the scroll.
to know how many channels there are.
And that little itty bitty logo on the left hand side that you can barely see, and no name looks alike because the studios don't want to call it the same name as the channels.
Western channel.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think it's the number of channels is overhyped. Like it was in linear. Do we really need 1,000 channels? 5,000 channels? Whatever.
So what's the right number of channels?
We're getting back into the discovery conversation. And the right number of channels is as many as the customer can find. That at the end of the day.
Well, so if one of the ideas of this panel is the idea of the battle for viewer attention, right? So how do we kind of circle this square with attention?
I mean, I think that's a huge question, how many channels, but I also think it's about, do you have enough channels for your audience members to be able to turn on their television and find something that they want to watch? How niche, how down to the specificity of that experience does your audience want to engage with? And so it's a very broad question, but at the end of the day, you also want to be able to have enough of an experience that you have, the ideal situation would be like, oh, I want cooking. This is my cooking channel. This is my entertainment channel. And this is my Revry channel. And this is, you know what I mean? Like, this is the experience where I get to have all of myself and all these different parts of me. I can talk to them in that way. The question is, and we're not going to talk about discovery, but I'm just going to say it one more time. The question is, how can I know that those channels exist and they're for me? But I think having enough channels that people can identify with those channels is really important.
I think from our perspective, we're really focused on the data behind it. And it's, you talked a lot about, I think Ingrid, you talked a lot about, how can we be contextually relevant to the scene or to wherever we at in time in that piece of content. At the same time, we look at it a lot of the times, what signals can we pick up about the audience and what can we learn from them? Obviously, with consent management and everything else, pay respect to that, very much so. But it's about, how do I know, like Aliyah, you said, how do I know that these channels are for me or this content is for me? It's about us understanding the audience better. Yes, we know a lot about the content, obviously. That's sort of the straightforward part. Don't want to call it easy, but probably a lot easier than to build a persistent profile based on the signals that we receive, compounded by all of these fragmented places that viewers go. We can do this very well when we run the platform. We struggle when we have to look at, how does the user interact between YouTube, then go to Tastemade, then go somewhere else? How do we actually build a flow of those signals and learn and attach a value to that viewer, and then use that to drive the advertising, the fill rates, the CPM uplift, etc. So I think it goes back to the data, and specifically the data about the viewer and describing each unique individual viewer, and then we can use that for discovery too.
Yeah, I'd say it's so important for us, tying it back to advertising, is leveraging the technology we have to find those audience, because they are so fragmented, and even uncovering audiences that might have been invisible, like you mentioned in news. That's something, again, we're seeing that's really exciting from the contextual AI space. Is usually people might be averse to a certain type of content. Maybe it's news because bad news. Well, if we can get down to that scene level and light up those signals and say this is brand safe, then why not open up and uncover these audiences that could be very valuable to that brand, drive the right KPIs as well. So getting back to, how do we find those audiences? How do you find that demand across a plethora of very fragmented supply is something that, again, we're really focused on. And also creating new ad opportunities for that great content, right? Again, the overlays, and making sure that when there is premium content, that we're taking advantage of creating the right ad opportunity, increasing ad opportunities with like overlays like the L bars or the pictures in pictures, etc.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of what we're talking about, the onus ends up being on the platforms, right? On the one hand, we've got to build discovery mechanisms that actually surface things properly. But I'll give you a litmus test that also puts some of the onus on the programmers, right? Because if you are a rights holder and you're standing up channels that have tons and tons of episodes of content that aired before, that doesn't necessarily help break through. The litmus test which platforms can really deliver a hit in free streaming, on demand or fast, right? I can count maybe two, right? Like Tubi has had a cultural breakthrough with some of their movies. The Town talks about them. I think the audience that watches those creators has certainly talked about them. And then Jury Duty on Prime Video. But other than that, like if your platform is incapable of delivering a hit show, then discoverability is probably part of the issue, because I guarantee you the content is there. We deliver shows that we think are worthy of being hits, if I do say so myself. A lot of people on this panel do, and so at that point, like it has to go both ways.
So this idea of that it has to be a hit. When we live in a world where everything is fragmented, what does it even mean to be a hit anymore? And especially in fast, when you have 1,000 channels, does the standard metric that we've used for a hit matter?
Yeah, to me, the definition of a hit is something that truly makes a cultural impact. And that can, by cultural impact, I say that in those specific words to mean like you can make a cultural impact very, very broadly, but you can also make a cultural impact on a niche audience that cares very deeply about the entertainment that you've created. And that's the thing that I think that is really differentiates one programmer from another, number one, and it also differentiates one platform from another.
Yeah, I think it's holistic. You're looking at like, okay, how many folks are actually talking about this? How many people are excited about this? And you're also looking at, okay, how are people watching across all these platforms? It's a very holistic approach. It's no longer just what the Nielsen rating came out with the day after.
Yeah, Tyler the Creator, after his most recent tour, was doing an interview with somebody who was talking about the fact that like his songs never get radio airplay. He sells out the crypto arena every single time. So
Ingrid, you were kind of hitting on where Fast is headed with the premium content, with more live content. Aaliyah, you kind of talked about this too, of making it into an event. Let's talk briefly about where Fast is headed with bringing in more of these kind of high dollar, higher CPM opportunities around news, sports, World Cup this week.
Intelligence, right? Data intelligence. We're able to extract such nuanced data now, and with AI, it's at scale. So that's extremely powerful, and I think that we're seeing that prove itself out. And soon enough, we'll have that data. But it is creating incremental impressions as well through these new ad units as well. So it's really leveraging the data we have through the technology we have access to. It's only going to give us more power to create the right audience segments, the right contextual segments. So I think it's just going to become much more targeted and a better experience overall, where that positive engagement becomes also very important and thoughtful.
So we're quietly, or within our partner group inside Culture Collective, we're creating our own, it's in beta form right now, a dashboard, an audience dashboard.
It's really cool.
Yeah. And so it's down to the program level. Our content folks use it internally at Fuse, but it serves really the advertisers' needs, but also our partner needs. And we feel it's unique and different, and it's compelling enough. And again, it's within our audience, our niche audience, that's unique to us. So yeah, it serves things like, do we do stunts on a particular weekend at a particular time of the year? Do we pick shows that we know will perform better on a weekend or versus daytime? So there's just a plethora of what's coming. And we didn't wait. We're not going to sit and wait for some third-party partner to build it for us. We went ahead and did it ourselves. And we may at some point get to AI, but that really is what is helping us get there, is taking miles and miles of data and mining it through the powers of AI is really the secret sauce, and it gets you there much faster.
I think it's doing the thing that content is really important to do, which is like to build a world that your audience wants to live inside of. And so if you're able to do that really well, then you have advertisers that also want to be a part of that world that you're building. And then all of these other units get to exist in these different ways. And so advertisers who want to be a part of IRL events, but also want to be and have traditional, 30-second ad spots, and want to be a part of an L bar, and want to have like static units because they want to be a part of the world that you're creating. And so I'm always thinking about it from both the perspective of programmer content, but also from an advertiser. What is going to be exciting for the audience to want to be a part of, but also for advertisers to want to be a part of, so that they feel like they're getting real value out of their investment.
So what defines the next phase of Fast? And please don't say AI.
I just to dovetail into your question and expanding on Aaliyah's world that viewers want to live in, I think that's really the key. If I had to add one more word to the title of this panel here, which says actually the battle for viewer attention quality. Not just attention period, but it's about the quality of the attention that we're getting, right? Those people that live in Aaliyah's world, they have high attention quality. And I think that's the value that you're then delivering back to the advertiser that drives your monetization up, that drives your, whether it's commits or whether it's the actual CPMs, that's what drives that up. The hard part is, and I think maybe I'll say just a little bit of AI, how do we measure that attention quality? I think that's the next nut to crack.
I think the biggest challenge that we're all focused on now is monetization. At the end of the day, I could tell you all day that our fast economics are better than our YouTube economics. Lifestyle content has a bit of a structural advantage in it just the production cost. But at the end of the day, if we can get fast to a place of better monetization, then the flywheel begins to spin faster. The key thing that you've heard from this panel, from a very broad perspective, is we're moving into a world where, because there's so much CTV supply, the thing that gets you to stand out is your data strategy. And there's lots of different ways to approach that. The way that Tastemade certainly thinks of it in partnership with our sister companies at Grubhub and Blue Apron and Wonder, is to think about like what's data that we specifically have about users that we can bring to market pretty uniquely across a diversified CTV supply set. And I think Aaliyah may say a similar thing. But at the end of the day, where this is going is, I think, going to turn into a tale of the data haves and the data have-nots. When this was just YouTube, when this was just Meta, when this was just Amazon, they hoarded the data themselves, figured out a way to monetize it, and became the 3 largest advertising companies in the history of mankind. So I don't think that the playbook is really any different. It's just quite diversified and fragmented amongst a lot of different people selling.
We've got to get back having these conversations with the advertisers, the clients directly. Why? Because you're grading your own homework. The data wins. They just go along with whatever they're persuaded into buying or transacting off of it. And the truth is, the way you get into seeing advertisers, you show up with something unique and compelling that they can't get from their agency. A new audience that they never thought it was possible, or a shift in new behavior, whatever that might be. And again, I think that's where the magic happens, and it must continue to be in that place. Otherwise, all bets are off and people are grading their own homework.
I wonder if, Dave, my boss, I don't know if he's here, but he did a keynote yesterday and he really challenged growth and optimization. And are we setting up the whole ecosystem for growth because of maybe the monopoly of data that's going to happen? So I wonder if we are going to move into a time when we're really starting to question the foundations and start to work more together and just change the entire space itself. I mean, we'll see, right? Everyone's talking about it. I think Dave was really poignant about touching on some of those major issues. Will that actually start happening as we start seeing that imbalance take place? And maybe it's not sustainable. Maybe it is. Who knows?
So to wrap up, and guess hopefully back on schedule since we started a little late, one sentence, where do you want to see Fast 5 years from now?
What I'd love to see, maybe I'm a little bit of an idealist, to kind of break through these walled gardens of data and see more openness and independence, right? And really feed that back to the programmers, the content creators, the owners, and then you guys can take that then back to your advertiser and say, look, this is the audience attention quality that we bring to the table that you're really buying. And we're able to measure intent, and we're able to measure the engagement in a different way of our audience. So I don't know. For me, what I'd love to see is the openness, to be able to take data from YouTube, data from your own platform, data from Pluto, data from Tubi, wherever you're at, and mash that up together and build a real cohesive profile of your audience with all those signals across these different ecosystems.
Democratize the data.
Democratize the data.
I think Fast has a legitimate shot of being a key part of people's media diets in 5 years. I think it's going to require distribution platforms and programmers working more closely together, sharing information in the way that has become standard in many other ways like TVOD and other distribution mechanisms, because that's just going to lead to more smart risk taking on both sides that eventually grows the entire revenue pie, which then makes that whole flywheel spin. But I think it's got a good shot of being a big part of people's media diet in 5 years.
Yeah, fragmentation we've got to get our heads around, and I think that prices of TVs need to go down. I'm only kidding. No, I just think, again, democratizing data, making it easier to buy. Programmatic, of course, will get us there. However, hands-on keys is not always preferred. I still feel like there's usually that human aspect to the business.
I think the promise of what CTV and FAST was the idea that you could combine like what we know of television with like the efficiency of like digital. And I think in my dream world in 5 years, we will actually like live into the promise of that, which requires the standardization across all of the platforms of like, hey, this is how we measure this, as opposed to this is how we measure this, and this is how we measure this, and then this is how we measure this. And then you can kind of figure it out together and decide whether or not it makes sense. So if we could get there, I think a lot of us, especially programmers, would really have an easier life. And it would allow for us to really live in the promise of what FAST was, set to be.
I want to live in Aaliyah's world where we're all working together to create these wonderful experiences with 100% fill rates.
So let's thank the panel for being here today, and thank you all.